Holding space is about showing up authentically and creating safety in the moments that matter most. From parenting littles to navigating friendships and partnerships, I reframe tantrums, conflicts, and messy feelings as invitations to connection. I'm Julia Clark, a psychotherapist and play therapist with over 30 years of experience walking alongside children, families, and the people who care for them. Each episode explores the building blocks of emotional literacy, co-regulation, and boundaries, while honoring the intergenerational stories we carry within. Blending science with lived wisdom, I believe growth is playful, healing is possible, and we are all learning together. Hi, I'm Julia, and together we're holding space. Today, I want to bring you into the heart of how I came to understand safety, not as a concept, but as something lived, breathed, and built moment by moment. I've been working with children and families for over 25 years, but the beginning wasn't in a calm office with soft lighting and sand trays, or fully stocked playrooms. It was in long-term residential treatment homes, places where safety had to be created before anything else could even begin. These were children whose worlds had been shaken, kids whose behaviors were big, not because they were too much, but because they had carried too much for too long. Looking back, this is where I first learned that safety isn't a technique. It's a posture, a way of being, a steadying presence in rooms where storms had become the norm. As I stepped into leadership roles, training and supporting teams, my focus became making those spaces feel less like programs and more like homes. Homes where routines were reassuring, where movie nights and card games meant more than they looked like, and where adults were allowed to be human, repairing when they slipped, just like kids do. Later, I moved into therapeutic roles in a girls' boarding school, women's shelters, homeless shelters, each one widening my understanding of what it takes for a nervous system to finally breathe again. For me, everything shifted after my 3-year postgraduate training in non-directive play therapy with Play Therapy UK. Previously, I had learned how to reflect and paraphrase, but here I learned something deeper. That transformation happens not through perfectly chosen words, but through the right conditions. Through being held with acceptance, even when you can't yet name what hurts. When I opened my practice focusing on play therapy, I continued following that thread of curiosity. I reached out to Dr. Mike, one of the creators of the Strengths and Difficulties Questionnaire Assessment, because I wanted to track what was changing for children without forcing them to explain their inner world verbally. He liked my idea of creating a way to use the SDQ, a way that honored and tracked bottom-up work like play and sand therapy. A way that said something is shifting here, even if the child can't articulate it yet. He called it cutting edge. I called it a creative way to use his tool to track and prove the shifts that were happening beneath the play. The pandemic came and we lost him far too soon, but the heart of that collaboration lives on in how I support children today, and how I teach other therapists to trust the quiet work happening beneath the surface. As my understanding deepened, so did my practice. I expanded into family work, group work, training, and intensives. Not because I planned to, but because holding space for families and therapists' own inner worlds became part of holding space for the children they were supporting. The family sessions, the sands tray circles, the play therapy intensives, they were never simply about learning how to do the work. They were about becoming the kind of presence who could hold the work. My intention was always to help parents and therapists build the capacity to hold space with greater depth, to meet themselves with the same compassion they wish to offer their children and clients. Because when symbolic work touches us, it softens what's rigid, opens what's guarded, and brings us back to ourselves. so we can guide others back to themselves too. And here, on this podcast, we've walked through so many pieces of that journey together. Understanding behavior as communication, repair after rupture, nervous system patterns that shape our relationships, and the truth that children don't need to talk to heal. If you've been listening a while, you'll know I don't come here to tell you what to do. I come here to sit with you in the real moments, the messy ones, the tender ones, the I'm trying my best, but this is hard ones, because that's where safety happens. In the coming weeks, we'll keep exploring what it means to understand rather than react. What might be underneath I hate you, shutdowns, lying, refusal, sibling rivalry, or the famous selective hearing, which is rarely selective and almost always overrun. Before we close, take a deep breath with me. Inhale. Exhale. Ask yourself, where am I being invited to soften? Where might I slow down? Where is safety asking to grow? In my home, my practice, or in myself? You don't need to know the answers. You don't need to fix anything today. You just need to keep showing up with curiosity, compassion, and room to be human. Thank you for walking this journey with me, for being here, for listening, for holding space with me. I'll see you in the next episode.
If the content of this podcast really resonated with you and you'd like to go even deeper, I'd love to invite you to step into this work more fully. Beyond the podcast, there are many ways that we can connect. Individual therapy for your child, parent coaching or support for yourself, and deeper I Am sessions that explore intergenerational patterns. Additionally, I also offer webinar workshops and weekend retreats for parents, classes, intensive trainings and supervision for therapists, and large group presentations for educators or school presentations. Each are designed to help us hold space for the next generation of children in safe, attuned, and meaningful ways. You can learn more and explore what fits best for you at clarity.family.